Kane and Mbappe are the most owned players in Euro Fantasy, but in this video I'm going to show you why you can go without them, as you can build an unbelievable matchday one squad, which I will reveal and come to the conclusion of whether you can go without both of them in your teams. As always, make sure to drop a like on the video and smash the subscribe button for daily Euro Fantasy content. Enough waffling, let's get into today's video. Now, of course, me sitting here telling you to go without Kane and Mbappe, two world-class forwards who are highly owned in the game, is quite a tough argument to back, but I do think there is some reasoning behind it. Now, I'm not saying that we have to go without both of them, but I see a lot of managers out there struggling to build an ideal team, and I do think taking at least one of them out of your team will get you to the squad that you truly want. And we need to remember there are world-class players in this Euros that we can have as alternatives to these two players. So I want to bring up a few reasons why you could go without them, because I do get it. It is quite a tough argument. First up, Mbappe. Now, I just want to state here that I'm going on the assumption that we will use a chip in matchday 3. For me, currently, my strategy is to use the limitless chip in matchday 3. I just feel like it's the best time to do so. I want to save the wildcard for the quarterfinals, where we know we have a lot of teams knocked out, and I think we will need to completely refresh the squad. So the limitless chip means that you don't really need to worry about matchday 3. You're just focusing on the fixtures in matchday 1 and in matchday 2. And when I break it down and look at France's fixtures, Austria, I'll put up the results here, have actually been on a decent run of form of late. I don't think this is going to be a walkover for France in this particular game. And then they have the Netherlands. Now, I know France beat Netherlands in the qualifiers 2-1, but I think this is a tough Netherlands team who have got their stars back in the side. I think with the likes of Van Dijk, Van der Ven, people like Frimpong, Dumfries, Ake, I can't see a game where France are going to be scoring tons of goals against them. So when I break down both fixtures, of course, Mbappe can score against any team, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did score in each fixture, but I don't think the ceiling is as necessarily high as what it probably perceives on face value. And Austria and Netherlands, for me, are games that are going to be tricky for France. The real one that you want is the Poland game, but of course, if you're using the chip in matchday 3, you could bring in Mbappe in that week if you want to. Looking at England, now, I think the group stage for England is actually probably a bit easier than that of France, so maybe making the argument to go without Harry Kane is a bit trickier. Serbia to kick things off. I think this is going to be a tricky game for England, regardless of whatever fixture they play, just because of the usual national hype around the team. I always think they're slow burners in that first game in any competition. Then they play against a Denmark team who have been really mixed in terms of results. They lost to Northern Ireland, so we could see England destroy them. But equally, we've seen a Denmark team in years gone by put up resolute performances in these competitions. So I don't think either game for England is going to be an easy game. And then, of course, matchday 3, probably the fixture that you really want to have ownership in England, is going to be when we use our limitless chip. So we need to forget about matchday 3, which for both teams is probably the money fixture. So when I break down the fixtures, I actually don't think they are easy for their respective teams. Going without them, of course, is a risk, but I do think the likes of England have alternatives in their squad in midfield, for example, that we can go for. And we're going to cover them off now in these upcoming drafts. So if you were to go without Mbappe and Kane in your Euro Fantasy teams, and I know that sounds a little bit ridiculous when I say it out loud, you can build a squad something like this. And we need to go through, obviously, the benefits of why going without Kane and Mbappe is going to bring to your team, because end of the day, we need some serious benefits to justify going without two of arguably the favourites for Golden Boot. So this is just an example of a team. Of course, there are many different ways that you can build a team. I've just gone for this general structure. And the real pros of going without Mbappe and Kane is, first and foremost, in the front line, you can get yourself 3, what I would quote, mid-price to expensive forwards. So right now, when people are building the Mbappe and Kane draft, you realistically can only have a 7.5 million forward alongside those two, which is going to be in the shape of a Kai Havertz. If you're not completely sold on those 7.5 million forwards, whether it be Havertz or Dovbyk, then I think going without Kane and Mbappe means that you can go for 3 really exciting picks that are also major differentials in the game. So Griezmann would obviously be your Mbappe replacement in that French team. And to be honest with you, I think we're forgetting how unbelievably consistent Griezmann is in these major competitions. He always steps up for France when they need him. And I don't think he's actually a major downgrade to Mbappe that maybe other people are making out. So I really do like Griezmann as a bit of an alternative to Mbappe. Of course, the problem with this draft is there aren't many alternatives to Harry Kane. In the forward department, you have Watkins and Tony in the Euro Fantasy. Neither of them are going to play, so you can't really put them in your teams. Whereas with France, you can actually put Griezmann in, and actually, I think, isn't a huge downgrade. It means you can squeeze Ronaldo in as well. I think a lot of people would love to have Ronaldo, but can't actually get to him. Now, is Ronaldo that much worse than Kane or Mbappe? I'm going to say no, honestly. With this Portugal team, they are scoring goals for fun. They are one of the highest goal scoring teams going into this competition. And for you to be able to have one of the all-time greats in Cristiano Ronaldo in replacement of Harry Kane and Mbappe, I really don't think that's a terrible downgrade as well. I think the fixtures for Portugal as well are better than that of France and England in their respective groups. So again, getting Ronaldo in your team is not a major downgrade. And the one that maybe is a bit controversial, but again, I really like him, is going to be Romelu Lukaku. Belgium's group, I think, is actually pretty decent. And importantly, we are overlooking Lukaku completely. He's the highest goal scorer in Euro qualifying coming into the competition. And I know Lukaku has a bit of a bad name to him because of his time in the Premier League and overseas, but I think Lukaku for Belgium is a different beast. I know he had a really, really poor performance in the last major competition with those horrendous misses, but I think Lukaku is actually being slept on. And going without Mbappe and Kane means you can get three really exciting forwards who I would argue are talisman for their respective teams as well. The other big factor that you can do with this draft is have a second premium midfielder. Now, with this draft, I think a lot of people, whether you go for the Mbappe Kane or not, will have somebody like a Bruno Fernandes at 9 million. But then the next player in midfield is likely going to be an 8 or a 7.5 million midfielder. With this team, you could actually have two premiums in the shape of Fernandes and even a Jude Bellingham, or that could come down to another 9 million midfielder. But as you can see, with this team, you can have two premiums, which I think is a real benefit. And of course, going without Harry Kane means that probably Bellingham becomes a bit more essential, with him probably playing in that number 10 position and being almost a second forward at times. I think Bellingham is a really decent replacement to Harry Kane, and I don't think you're actually missing out hugely in that England attack. Outside of that, I think the rest of the draft will be pretty familiar to what you would build with a Kane and Mbappe draft. I think you could afford this kind of defence, two premiums in the shape of Cancelo and Theo Hernandez, the 5 million and then two budget enablers, and of course the 7 to 7.5 million midfielders that we spoke about with Szoboszlai and Wirtz. So I really like this team. I get it. You're probably sat there right now thinking it's outrageous to go without Mbappe and Kane. And I am going to show you two drafts now, which is a no Mbappe draft and then a no Kane draft, to come to the conclusion that if you don't want both, but you want one, I'm going to show you which one you should go for, because I do think there is a clear favourite. And then we will come to a downright conclusion of whether you should go without both of them. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. I think this draft is actually really exciting, and it is a nice change to see something other than Mbappe and Kane in every single draft. So if you could only choose one, Kane or Mbappe, for your Euro Fantasy draft, which one should it be? And for me, I think there is a clear favourite in this one. It is going to be Mbappe, and let me explain why. So this is roughly how a draft would look if you were to go down the route of Kylian Mbappe in your squad. Now, compared to the previous one that we looked at with no Mbappe or Kane, we have had to downgrade both Ronaldo and, of course, Antoine Griezmann, but that one isn't really a downgrade. So Kai Havertz has come in because realistically we need to enable that position, and at 7.5 million, he kind of ticks all those boxes. Now, you can do stuff for this team to bring in a Ronaldo if you want to. You could downgrade one of our midfielders to a Rodri or a Jorginho, and then you could upgrade Kai Havertz to Ronaldo, or you could upgrade Lukaku to Ronaldo. There are many different ways that you could take this team. Now, the main reason why I think Mbappe is the one that you need to go to out of the two is because the alternatives to Harry Kane, I think, are better than that of the French team. If you're going to go for a France replacement than Mbappe, it has to be Antoine Griezmann, because I don't think there are any other viable options. And it sounds crazy to say that because France are one of the favourites in the competition, but I'm going to put up the midfielders in Euro Fantasy 2024 for France. Literally, not a single one you'd pick in your team unless you want someone like Kante. So French midfielders are completely off the radar. So the only way that you can actually get any piece of that French attack is by going for a forward. And when we look at it, Griezmann versus Mbappe, I love Griezmann to pieces, and I do think he could be a great alternative to Mbappe. But I think if you're going to have a French forward, you just go for Mbappe. Now, the reason why I think going without Kane is probably the right route to go for is I think Kane is absolutely talismanic in that England team, but I think the England midfielders are actually viable options. We've got Foden, Bellingham, Saka, all fantastic options who I think's game time are going to be really solid. And I also think they offer great attacking output. So for this draft, for example, I think we have a really nice balance. It means we can have the best French attacker in Mbappe, and we can also squeeze in a brilliant English midfielder in the shape of Bukayo Saka, while having the likes of Havertz in the team. Now, what I'm going to show you is this draft without Mbappe, and just to give you an example of why I'm not hugely fond on this team. So as you can see, with the no Mbappe draft, we had to make a few slight changes, and I've left the midfield slot open just to give you a bit of an idea on the players that we can afford. So with this team, we've replaced Mbappe for Harry Kane, of course, but then we've changed Lukaku for Antoine Griezmann. Now, of course, you definitely have your own right to think that Griezmann is better than Lukaku, and I definitely think there is an argument to say so, but I also liked the idea of having Mbappe, the differential of Lukaku, and Kai Havertz in that team. I think it was a really nice balance. Whereas with this one here, I love Harry Kane. I think he's a brilliant option. But then having Griezmann alongside it, I think it's great. But I think you're always going to sit there thinking to yourself, I might as well just get the best French forward in Kylian Mbappe. And when we look at the midfielders, then I think at 8.5 million, we're struggling to fit a great midfielder in. I think you can go for Saka, but again, with the Mbappe draft, you have Mbappe and an England midfielder. With this draft, you probably are going to look to double up on the England attack with someone like a Bukayo Saka. Now, of course, I'm an England fan. I would love to go down that route, but I'm a little bit pessimistic. And I don't think going for Kane and Saka is the route to go for. So when we look at the other options available, don't think there are many that are screaming out great value. I think you probably could go down to Xavi Simons at the Netherlands, which is a good option. You could go Barella in Italy, but I don't think there are many apart from Saka that you really want to go for. So because of that reasoning, I actually think maybe just going for the Mbappe draft, having Mbappe, Lukaku, and then Saka in your team is actually the direction that I would choose. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. So with that all said and done, here is a Kane and Mbappe draft. And the big question is this better than the previous ones that I've shown you? And I think it probably is. I really think it is sad to say this because it is quite template and it is quite boring. But looking at this draft here, I just feel a little bit more safe. I feel like a nice warm blanket has been put over me, knowing that I can see Mbappe and Kane in this side. Now, of course, what are the problems with having both of them? Well, we've gotten rid of that differential forward in the shape of Lukaku or Griezmann. And of course, with this particular team, I haven't been able to afford a 8.5 million midfielder. So we've gone for the premium in Bruno Fernandes, who I do think is just the route to go for, especially if you're not going for Cristiano Ronaldo in your attack. But then we've had to go for the 7.57 million range in Wirtz, Szoboszlai, Barella, and then we've gone down to Turkey's Hakim. Can never pronounce his name, Kalahulu. I can never do it. So the 8.5 million bracket is now gone. We can't go for Foden, we can't go for Bellingham, we can't go for Saka. But I don't think that's a terrible thing because end of the day, we have the best England attacker in Harry Kane. And sadly, I just think that probably is the direction to go for. I've shown you the draft without both. And I think if you are going to go that direction, you just go without both. And you go really, really big with your team. And I think there still is an argument to do so. But I think this team's really well-rounded. The one downside is that we don't have that second premium midfielder or that differential forward. But I'll be really interested to know in the comment section, do you prefer this draft or do you prefer the no Mbappe, no Kane, or no both? Let me know in the comments. Yes, guys, okay, that is going to wrap up today's video. I know it's a little bit controversial, but for people that are playing Euro Fantasy for a bit of fun because they've spent 9 months playing FPL seriously, I actually think it is something to consider going with that Mbappe, Kane, or both in your team. And hopefully this video has shown a few different ways of going about it and showing that it isn't actually as crazy as it first sounds. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd be really interested to know your plans for match day 1. As always, make sure you drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it and hit that subscribe button for daily Euro Fantasy content. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day. Take care. Cheers.